Hey there guys. Now one of my more popular series of videos have always been my videos that focus on batteries for fish finders and trolling motors. And so today I wanted to talk about a common question that I get, and it's one that I got to sort of deal with a lot this past year because I was traveling a lot for my Kokanee Across America project, and that is how do I power my fish finder when I'm on long road trips and I don't always have access to electricity. And so this is a really big problem for me, not only as an angler that heavily depends on electronics, but also as a content creator. I have a lot of cameras and stuff that have a lot of power demands. So this is my fish finder. This is the Humminbird Helix 7. It consumes a little bit less than 1 amp per hour. Now, for relatively short trips, one of the easiest solutions that I can recommend is just to buy multiple batteries, right? So this is a 10 amp hour lithium battery from Dakota Lithium. It's going to give me a full day on the water, no problem. Or like this one here, this is my Time USB 12.8 volts, so it's the same as this one. 12 amp hour though, so it's a little bit more amp hour. You can see it's a little bit bigger battery. And so I can get a little more than a day and a half in the water on this one. So if I have a shorter day, let's say I go out and limit out for Kokanee quickly in the morning, I can maybe squeeze 2 or 3 days out of a larger battery like this. This is probably the most economical way to do it, and what I recommend for most anglers, because most anglers aren't going on long multi-week trips. Fishing, we're usually just doing 2 or 3 nights and then we're done and headed back to the house with our catch. It's the most economical as well. Now, years ago, there wasn't that many lithium batteries on the market. Now the market is flooded. And so, years ago I bought these Dakota Lithiums. This is a $110 10 amp hour battery. It's still $110 today. But the thing is, the fuel cells in here come from China just like everybody else. And now there's just hundreds of Chinese lithium battery companies. And I've tested a lot of them. They're all really good, and I've watched a lot of teardown videos. I mean, they've gotten this down to pretty much a science, and this 12 amp hour battery, which is bigger than this battery, is $50, right? So I really don't think I would go with Dakota Lithium unless you wanted to support them, because they also do sponsor a lot of like bass tournaments and fishing tournaments and things like that. So they do a good job of that, which a lot of the Chinese companies don't do. But I'll have to say, like, I've never had any issues with any of the cheaper lithium batteries that I have, and I have tested many and torn apart many. They all work really well. So this is definitely the most economic way to go. Now, another solution, instead of having multiple small batteries, is just to get a bigger battery. And the challenge with this is then you're putting a heavier battery in your kayak, or you might have limited space options. And for me, because I fish in a salty, it only has one tiny little access port underneath the chair. But I was able to find this Roy Power. This is an 18 amp hour battery. You can see it's really thin but tall. That actually works really well for me, sliding it down into my kayak. And I can get 3 days potentially on the water with this, at least 2 really long days. And yeah, this is also a solution as well. And what's more amazing is this battery is $110, so it costs the exact same amount as this 10 amp hour battery. It's almost twice the amount of power. So I think this is, part of the thing is, like, you're paying a lot for just the assembly and the case and sealing and the BMS and all that stuff that's incorporated into these batteries to make them safe. So adding more power to them doesn't really add the cost or make the cost that much higher. So you could always just, instead of doing a couple of little batteries, you can always just go with a bigger battery. But of course, this is something heavier. So if you're carting your kayak around or things like that, then you're going to be carting more weight, which is part of the reason I don't really like using a really large battery. I don't think I'd go any bigger than 18 amp hour, just because I don't want to deal with that weight when I'm carting it around long distances. Okay, a third option would be something that's going to go in a completely different direction, because with these batteries, you're pretty much just using these just for your fish finders, and then that's it, right? That's all they really have their utility for. They're small enough that you're not going to want to be using them for much else. But if you invest in, say, a bigger battery, it can be a lithium battery or a sealed lead acid battery if you're trying to save a little bit of money. This is a 50 amp hour lithium battery, so it's very lightweight, but it packs a lot of juice in here. And then what you want to do is add a inverter. So this is a pure sine wave inverter. You want to get pure sine wave because basically what we're going to do is we're going to convert this 12 volt battery to an alternating current. And you want that alternating current to be a smooth wave so it doesn't stress out your electronics when you're charging. So then what you would do is you would take this one is a 600 watt continuous power. It has a 1200 watt surge capacity, which is more than I'm ever going to put strain on it. It has two 3-prong plugins, plus it has a USB port. So all I can do is take and put the gator clips on here, positive, positive, negative, negative, and then I can power up my inverter. And then I just carry my charger for my batteries with me. And this is nice because now I can use this to charge other things like cameras, phones. This basically acts like a giant battery bank. And then I can plug in my Dakota lithium battery that needs to be charged. And now I'm charging. So this is a great way to top off your batteries at the end of the day. You can also top off your other electronics, your smartphones and things like that. You can plug in other electronics that you might use at the campground, such as lamps, radios, whatever else you might need. Now this is going to be a little bit larger of an investment because obviously you have to buy your original fish finder battery, and then you're going to have to invest in the inverter and a larger battery to act as your battery bank. So the inverter, I got a little bit bigger one than I think I needed. That one set me back about $120. And then the Time USB 50 amp hour battery actually set me back at $160. I mean, that's still ridiculously cheap. 160 bucks for a lithium battery. And you get so much more amperage out of it than you would a sealed lead acid battery, because you can take that 12 volt discharge all the way down to almost like 95 to 98% of the battery's capacity. So it's still really cheap compared to what they used to be just a few years ago, where 50 amp hour battery would have set you back 300 or 400 bucks. So the price of these things just keeps coming down. Okay, but one of the things I ran into is that even with my inverter and having, that's gonna get mad because I unplugged it. Having the inverter, it was kind of a pain having all these things to manage when I was out there. So I had my battery bank, I had the inverter, and all of this other equipment to charge. I found that I just didn't have enough capacity for me because I have other capacity needs because of all the cameras that need to be charging simultaneously overnight, plus the battery banks to run those cameras. So this suggestion is only for those that are really looking for something that's going to power a lot of their needs. And that is, I ended up investing in a power box. And this thing has been awesome. And I'm going to be doing a lot more videos on this little handheld power box here. But basically what I get here is I get three-prong plugins here. I get digital readouts of the remaining capacity in here. This has a 1200 watt sustained output, but it can go much higher. And I got a cigarette lighter. I've got USB-A's, USB-C's, and then, like I said, the 3 plugins here, and it has a built-in camping light too here on the back. So this has come in handy when I'm filleting fish at the fish cleaning station. I can bring this over here. This throws off a huge amount of light here. I can also run my electric fillet knife off of it. There's a lot of things I want to talk about this in the future, but I just want to focus on this just as a way to power my fish finder batteries. And it's very, very simple because it's basically just like having a little plug-in station at your house, and you just plug this in here, and then all I got to do is plug in my battery. And what's amazing is this thing only weighs like 25 pounds, but it has a over 310 amp hour capacity, so I can charge 30 of these 10 amp hour batteries off of this thing and won't have any problems. So I can show you that it's charging there in the red light. So this is a really amazing power box. It's actually helped me out in recent power outages too, so because of snow. So it's been a really handy thing, and I think it's probably one of the best investments I've made, especially if you're somebody who's really into tech and you have a lot of electrical power demands when you're on the road. All right, I'll put links to all these below. Oh, I forgot to say, this does retail for about 700 bucks, so it's no small investment, but it's an important one for me because that's how I make my living. And if you're somebody who is really energy needy, this might be a good investment. Okay, I'll put links to all these below. And yeah, just let me know if you have any questions and I'll get back to you. And I'll see you next time out on the water. Just remember, fish smarter, not harder. Bye, guys.